Welcome, everyone. So glad you showed up today to be here with me. It's been an interesting week, some interesting months behind us, and a lot of folks are trying to figure it out like I am. Have you ever sensed that God is up to something, but you're not sure what it is? That's kind of where we've been. Maybe there's more questions than answers. In February, a virus shut down our nation. This last week, injustice-fueled violence broke out into our city streets. There's fear everywhere. The world is so loud with sound of fear on an endless 24/7 loop on our news feeds and social media. My little 85-year-old mom is self-isolating at home in Ozark, and this violence is screaming at her from the television, got her concerned, which gets me concerned. My 10-year-old granddaughter, Madison, called me after all the schools were shut down, and she said, "Papa, it's getting real around here. Is everything going to be okay?" Well, I think Madison's question is probably the question that's deepest in all of our hearts. Is everything going to be okay? Well, when bad stuff happens, we tend to ask the God who is there, where are you? Why did this happen? What's next? What is going on? I've been asking myself all those questions, trying to find answers that sometimes seem elusive. But here's what I believe. I believe we are in a God moment when unrelenting fear sent by the enemy is masking unparalleled opportunity for the people of God. The enemy always traffics in fear. The Lord always shows us opportunity in the middle of that fear if we'll just see it. I believe we can bring good news into this bad news cycle that we're in. I want to share a scripture with you from 1 Corinthians 15:46. It says simply, that which is natural comes before or goes before that which is spiritual. This physical pandemic, this virus we are seeing in our nation, could be a signpost for a spiritual pandemic in the souls of men and women. Satan is desperate because I believe God is on the move. So when I feel stuck between hard questions and elusive answers, I press into what I know, or maybe I should say I press into who I know, and that's what I've been doing for these past few months. Well, let me tell you what I know. Here's what I know. I want to mention three things that I'm standing on at the moment. Number one, God did not send this virus, this anxiety, this fear, or this injustice. He did not send it, but He is the one who can lead us through it. God is good. Sending evil would go against His character and His nature because God is good. James the Apostle wrote, "Every good thing and every perfect gift comes from God." So people ask, well, why is all this bad stuff happening? Well, the Apostle Paul answers, Adam's sin opened the world to bad stuff happening. And John goes on to say, and so now the world is under the control of the evil one. And we know what the evil one does. He comes to rob, steal, and to destroy. And that's what you see when you see heightened fear, heightened anxiety, and you see violence breaking out. The enemy is trying to destroy, but God is always up to something good. So the first thing I want to say to you is that God did not send this virus. God did not send this anxiety, this fear, this injustice, but He's the one that will take us through. The second thing that I know, Jesus always flips the script on the enemy's plans. He always flips the script on whatever whatever plan, whatever scheme the enemy has, He flips it. From Romans 8:28, and we know that all things work together for the good of those who love God, who are called according to His purpose. Now that doesn't mean we won't face trouble. Obviously, Christians are losing their jobs, Christians are getting this virus. It doesn't mean we won't escape trouble. It just means in the end, God will win. He will have the final word and it will be good. And that's the hope that we carry in our hearts as believers. The third thing I know is that God does see us and He does hear our cries. I love Psalm 95:9 in the Passion Translation. God isn't hard of hearing. He'll hear all our cries, all our cries. God is not blind. He who made the eye has superb vision, and He's watching all that we do. Right now, millions upon millions of prayers are being prayed all over the world. In nation after nation, people are running out of options, and they're turning to God in droves. I'll talk more about that in just a couple of minutes. But here's those things that I know. God did not send all this bad stuff. He always flips the script, and He does see us, and He does hear our cries. Well, I'm hearing some things in the middle of all this. I've been at home isolating like everyone else, and I've been having time to reflect and time to listen and time to pray and time to read my Bible, and I've been listening to God, and I'm hearing and seeing some things that I believe God is up to at the moment, and I just want to share that with you. The first thing that I've seen as this pandemic has rocked on for a few months, God has been restoring a life rhythm of rest as we wait on Him to move. Waiting on the Lord is not passive. It's an active waiting. We're waiting on Him to move. We're getting ready to go with Him. But He has been restoring a life rhythm of rest as we've been waiting on Him to move. He makes us, it says Psalm 23, He says He makes us lie down in green pastures. He's wanting to show us that He can provide for us, that we can trust Him to be our provider. He leads us beside still waters and offers us peace and refreshing for our souls and for our minds. And I believe God's rhythm allows our passion for His kingdom to be expressed in rest and umpired in peace. We aren't meant to be passive people. We are active people. We are people that walk in faith and take steps of faith. And we long to be active. But I believe God has a rhythm that we can move in those things we're passionate about while we are expressing our life in rest and being umpired by peace. The peace of God rules our hearts. It umpires our hearts. I believe He has given us a forced Sabbath to refresh our souls. Maybe I should say He's given us a gift of a Sabbath to refresh our souls. It's a Selah moment. It's a Selah moment. That means to pause. It means to stop long enough to reflect and to gain His perspective. Well, the perspective that I'm gaining is that we've been in a time of preparation. We've been in a time of preparation, learning His rhythm, learning His ways. So when He begins to move and He calls us to go forward, we'll be ready. We'll be prepared. We won't be caught unprepared. God is restoring a life rhythm of rest as we wait for Him to move. The second thing I'm hearing and seeing is that God is restoring community with a fresh call to love our neighbors. A couple of weeks after we started isolating at home and I was driving from town, the Lord gave me an open picture, an open vision of a 3x5 card, just a regular 3x5 white card, and mine, my wife's name, Wayne and June Drain, and our phone number was on it. And it looked just like this. In fact, this is one of the ones that I did. The Lord told me, I said, what do you want me to do? And He said, your neighbors all around you are scared and they're lonely. I want you to take your name and your phone number, and I want you to go take it to them and just offer to serve them any way you can. So I took that home to June, and let me tell you, it's always good to ask your wife if you want to do something together before you do it. I've learned that. But she agreed. We took this card to the 4 neighbors around us. And we thought they might think that we're salesmen or that we're trying to get them to come to our church. No, we were just wanting to love our neighbors. So we walk up to the door, we knock on the door, and we say, hi, Wayne and June across the street. And we know this is a difficult time and we don't know how you're doing, but we wanted to come and just let you know that we're just across the street. Here's our name and phone number. If you need us, feel free to call and we'll do whatever we can to help out. Well, they looked at us with wonder. One of the ladies started crying and she said, I was lonely and you came to visit me. Who does that? Another neighbor said, this is amazing. I didn't even know your name before now. Someone else said, would you come and talk to me after this is over? I want to hear your story. Well, on Easter morning, a few weeks later, my wife made 4 strawberry pies for our neighbors. And we walked around to the neighbors and we gave those pies and we said, hey, just want to bless you. Happy Easter. Enjoy. You've got our number if you need us. Well, what happened after that is we started getting thank you cards, and they included their name and their phone number and said, call us if you need us. One lady next door loves puzzles. My wife loves puzzles. They started exchanging puzzles. Just this last week, one of my neighbors walked over with some fresh blueberries and a date cake, and they said, we just so appreciate that you're here. We so appreciate that we're getting to know you, and we just wanted to bless you. Now, I think often we think that it's all about going to the nations, and it is. But right now, it's been a time to go to neighbors. So I think God is restoring community. All these folks that are so isolated and so lonely, He's going to use us to restore community to where we actually love our neighbors, whether we know their name or not. The third thing that I'm hearing, God is calling out strongholds we have allowed in our lives and in our culture. This coronavirus has set up a stronghold of fear all across our nation. Corona is a Latin word for crown, and the virus itself looks like a crown. That's why they named it the coronavirus. Crowns represent authority, dominion, and power. Many have crowned strongholds in their lives of money, entertainment, religion, and self-centeredness. Let me tell you something. Believers are not here to cower to fear. We're here to pull down strongholds as our faith and our love overcomes fear. Let me tell you, there's a lot of hate, a lot of prejudice being exposed. Only love can overcome fear. Only love can overcome hate. We are a people that need to be active in acts of kindness and expressions of love. And I believe it's one of the ways that we will pull down strongholds that's got so many people in bondage. That's why we're here. The fourth thing that the Lord spoke to me is that God wants us to be solutionaries, not just pointing out problems, not just complaining and whining on social media. He wants us to be solutionaries. I'm seeing creativity and innovation become more vital than ever. Ideas are being given for kingdom solutions in business, education, medicine, and the church. Well, I've learned that solutions won't be found if we shut down to Netflix and a smartphone life. Solutions are found when you seek God. He says, ask of me and I'll tell you great and wonderful things you don't know. He gives ideas to get wealth. He's the original creator. I think it's time to seek God and to listen for Him. And then take steps to do what you're hearing and what you're seeing. God wants us to be part of the solution and not just a part of the problem. That's what Christians are about. Well, the fifth thing that I'm hearing, and I've been hearing this for 3 or 4 years now, but it just seems more real than ever, a spiritual awakening is near. I sense it's very near. My friend Pete Gregg in England just a couple of weeks ago posted some stats about what's going on in the UK. Before this pandemic started, 3% of the population either went to church or watched church online. 5 months later, the statistics are this: it's gone to 24%. 24% are on online alpha courses, are meeting in 2s and 3s, are watching church services online. They're gathering as they're allowed to gather all across England. Millions and millions of people are saying, maybe we need to know Jesus. It's a wonderful, opportune moment. My friend Carrie Job and her husband Cody Carnes wrote a song called The Blessing. I'm sure you've probably seen it and been blessed by it. Well, in England, my friend Tim Hughes got a bunch of worship leaders together and they filmed The Blessing. It's just about 30 or 40 worship leaders from across all of Britain, Scotland, Ireland, England, and Wales, and they're just singing The Blessing. Within a couple of days, it had been seen by 2.4 million people in England. It was so powerful that people were saying, I'm not even a Christian, and I listened to that song and I can't quit crying. The Prime Minister of the United Kingdom, Boris Johnson, gave Tim a Point of Light award And here's why. He said, this song and you and your friends have brought hope to our country. You are a point of light. And isn't that what we're supposed to be? Light, salt and light. And Tim wasn't out in the street raving about what was wrong. He was just speaking a blessing. He was moving in the opposite spirit of all the curses that are being said over people. And that's what we do when we're cursed, we bless. He was moving in the opposite spirit. And I encourage you to go listen to this song if you get a chance. It will bless you. I think that we are in an upper room moment. We're in an upper room moment. We're waiting on God to move. And I know that there's fear and there's concern and there's anxiety and there's an uncertainty about what's going on. But let me tell you, we are waiting on God to move. We are waiting on God to move, and when He moves, we'll move. Well, maybe the big question, the title of my message today is what now? What now? What do we do? That's the question that everyone's trying to answer. What should we do while we're waiting on God to move? What should we do as we wait for things to go back to normal? Well, I'm not sure it's going to go back to normal. I think the things that it's always been may not always be there now. And I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing. I believe God's doing something new. He has got something new and something better on His mind. He's the God of better things. Well, let me tell you what I've been focusing on during all this. I've basically been focusing on three things, and maybe these three things are some things that you can focus on as we wait for God to move. Number one, simplify. Simplify everything. That's one of the first things God spoke to me. What do I do? I'm not being able to travel in ministry like I was. Everything is shutting down. Invitations are stopping. And He said, simplify. Simplify everything. Life was so crazy busy for most families before this pandemic. So the way, I said, well, Lord, how do I simplify? What do I do? And I feel like He said, declutter your life. Now, in the Greek, it's declutter. In normal language, it's get rid of stuff. I've been giving things away to people who need it. I've been canceling unnecessary meetings, 2 or 3, and I'm realizing a lot of the meetings I have are unnecessary. I'm trying to only watch the news once per day. Trying to just get on social media a couple of times a day at most. Trying to find things to laugh about. I've been listening to music. Been going outside. Determined not to complicate things more than they need to be. When's the last time you just went outside and looked up at the stars at night, or you looked up at the trees and the surroundings and you just thanked God for His creation? So I've been trying to declutter my life. The second thing I heard is slow down. My grandkids come to see me, and sometimes I have to say, slow down as they run. And I realize that's what our Father's saying to us, slow down. Take time to read the Bible. Take time to read some poetry or a book. I want to endorse a book that June and I have read during this time. It's called The Ruthless Elimination of Hurry by John Mark Comer. It really has been a challenging book. It's been an encouraging book. It's given us some ideas on what to do during this time as we're waiting on God to move. One quote that I'll mention that I really love, life is right under our noses, waiting to be enjoyed. Life is right under our noses, ready to be enjoyed. One thing that's helped me, it's helping me take time to be present. Do you ever get a little miffed when you're talking to somebody and they keep looking at their watch, or they're checking their cell phone under the table? They're not really in the moment with you. I know that people can multitask a lot better than I can. But the one thing the Lord's challenging me with this book is be present. Whether it's with a friend, whether it's with the Lord, whether it's just being present in the moment when you're worshiping God or listening to music or really giving yourself to reading, or maybe walking across the street to see your neighbor. One, simplify everything. The second thing I've been focusing on is just being realistic. Being realistic. You know, nostalgia is not what it used to be. And I think longing for things in the past is not necessarily bad, but it can get in our way of moving into our future. What worked in the past may not work now. God's up to something new. He always is. His mercies are new every morning. His mercies are new every morning. And I've learned that His expectations lead to life, not to death. God's expectations are doable if you're walking with Him. So how am I being realistic? A couple of things. I've had to redefine the when in my life, and maybe you might want to redefine the when. I've stopped pushing to meet unrealistic expectations from others, from past traditions, and from even within my own self. I think it's time to speak and act with a relevance that a new generation can run with. Well, how do you do that? Well, for me, I'm trying to follow God's favor. I'm trying to follow God's favor. That's where life is. That's where fruit is. Well, how do you do that? Well, I find wherever I'm blessing people, that's God's favor. There may be a nation or a city or some people or a church or some friends or some neighbors that are open and I have favor with, just like there may be some places and people that I don't have any favor with. Well, I'm trying to go to those places that I have favor. I'm trying to go to those places where I can actually bear fruit and not just spin my wheels in the dirt. So I'm trying to redefine the when, and I'm looking for the when where I'm finding God's favor. And it's shifting right now. It's shifting, and I think it's a good shift. Well, the second thing I'm trying to do to be realistic is I'm trying to recognize the new that God's doing. This one-size-fits-all approach in government, education, business, and church is dying. To move into the new God has for us will require an honest look at what is working and what is not working right now. So I ask God daily, where are you moving? What are you doing? I no longer say, Lord, I'm doing this, will you bless me? I'm saying, Lord, what are you doing? Let me do that. Where are you moving? Let me move with you. And that's what I'm trying to do to be realistic. And then the third thing that I've been focusing on is it's a very simple thing, but so needed, is to be hopeful. Be hopeful. King David said in Psalm 39:7, I will put my hope, my trust in you, O God. I'll put my hope and my trust in you, O God. When we stand together in hope and unity, in that place where you stand, God commands a blessing, it says in Psalm 133. I'm actively seeking out people that have hope, that we can put our hope together and be stronger because of it. And then maybe we can give the hope that we have to those that are without hope. And I'm determined to be a carrier of hope, an agent of reconciliation. I hope that I'm taking peace and hope to my neighbors. You know, Philemon 1:6 says, I pray that you may be active in sharing your faith so that you will have full understanding of every good thing we have in Christ Jesus. A pandemic or a crisis doesn't cancel that directive. We need to stay active in our faith. We may not be able to go into our buildings, we may not be able to travel to other places, but we can walk across the street. We can pick up the phone and, I know this is old school, we can pick up the phone and call someone. We can text someone and say, I was thinking about you, praying for you. And then I love Psalm 96:3 from the Passion Translation. Give them the good news of our great Savior. Take the message of His glory and miracles to every nation, to every people group. Tell them all the amazing things He has done. When I get the opportunity to go talk to my neighbor to tell him my story, I'm just going to tell him the amazing stories of what God has done. That's the good news that we carry. That's what everybody around us needs. Well, some people are thinking, why is this happening? Why is it happening to me? Why us? Why do believers always have to be drawn into these burdens? Why do we need to be active? Why don't we just sit back and leave it to God to sort out, or just let the government fix it? Yeah, that's it. Let's let the government fix it. Well, here's why. We have a responsibility to do what we can because of who we are. We have a responsibility to do what we can because of who we are. Let me remind you of who we are. If you know Jesus, this is who you are. Psalm 16. As for the saints in the land, they are His glorious ones. One translation says His excellent ones, His noble ones. We are His glorious ones in whom is all His delight. We're His hands. We're His feet on earth. You've heard that a bunch, but it's true. We must not be afraid of getting our hands dirty or getting our feet muddy, whether we're walking across the world or we're walking across the street. And I love Psalm 95:7. We are the lovers He cares for, and He is the God we worship. That's why we do these things. We are the lovers He cares for. He is the God we worship. Well, the Apostle John said if we love Him, we will obey what He asks of us. If Jesus is saying, love our neighbors, if He's saying, slow down, if He's saying, let me prepare you for the next move that I'm going to make, that I want you to go with, we need to do that. Hear and obey are the same word in Greek. If you hear but you haven't obeyed, then you haven't heard. If we don't obey what He asks, then our worship won't mean much. Well, why does all this need to be done now? Why can't we just self-isolate at home and just wait and silo up until this blows over? Well, 2,000 years ago, a Jewish rabbi named Hillel inspired a quote that has been given many times, but it's timely again. If not us, who? If not here, where? If not now, when? God does hear us. God does see us. If we won't demand to do things our own way and rather follow His lead, then things will work out for our good according to His purpose. It may not look exactly like you thought it would. It'll actually be better than you thought it would. In God moments, the Holy Spirit pours out a measure of heaven on earth. He's doing that right now. He does not lead by fear, but in a kingdom rhythm of rest, peace, and timely action. He's starting to call us forward into timely action. But He doesn't want us to go and represent the anxiety and the fear and the worry that everyone else is experiencing. He wants us to live a contrast. We go out and do what we do, but in rest, walking in peace. That's going to make Jesus attractive and intelligible to others. Yes, God is up to something, and it will be good. He sees us, He hears us, He's with us, He's watching over us. And yes, Madison, if you're watching this, it's going to be okay. It's going to be okay. Let me just close by one thing that I try to do most days. I pray the Scriptures. Wait, you're supposed to read the Scriptures. No, I pray the Scriptures. Just a couple of examples. King David said in Psalm 23, I will fear no evil, for you are with me. I read that and then I just look up and I'll say, I will fear no evil because you are with me. I'll look over here, I will fear no evil because you're with me. I'll be disturbed by what I see on the television. I'll say, I will fear no evil because you are with me. Paul proclaimed in Philippians 4, my God will supply all my needs according to the riches of His glory in Jesus. Some of you have lost jobs. Some of you are struggling financially. I know what that's like. My God will supply all my needs according to the riches of His glory in Jesus. And then let me give this last verse from Psalm 39:7. I just gave you half of it earlier. It literally says, and now, O Lord, what do I wait? How do I wait? I will put my hope and my trust in you. Why don't you just say that with me if you want to do that? I will put my hope and my trust in you. Just don't look at me for a moment and either look up into the heavens or look down in prayer and make a confident statement. I will put my hope and trust in you. Let's say it. I will put my hope and my trust in you. God is up to something, and it will be good. Well, thanks for looking in today. I hope this has been a blessing to you. Just one more thing. If you have never put your hope and trust in Jesus, you don't know what you're missing. You don't know what you're missing. You can find love in the middle of hate. You can find peace in the middle of fear. You can find a life worth living in a life that you just want to escape from. The Apostle Paul tells us how we access that life. It says simply in Romans 10:9, if you confess with your mouth Jesus is Lord and believe in your heart that God raised him from the dead, you will be saved. That's all it is. And it has to be an honest prayer. If you want to do that right now, maybe you can say something like this: Jesus, I believe that you are Lord. I believe you died for me. I believe you rose again and that you'll come again for me. Today, Jesus, I need you. I ask you to come into my heart. Save me. And by your mercy and grace, I'll follow you all the days of my life. Now, if you prayed that prayer, maybe you're just saying yes to Jesus, then just notate that on the feed that we have. I said yes. I said yes. And if you want someone to talk to, we are here. You can contact us, or if you let us know, we'll contact you. But if you just prayed that prayer, let me tell you, you are in the waiting room getting ready for God to move, and He's going to use you powerfully, more powerfully than you could ever imagine. God is up to something, and it's good. God bless you.